Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, this is the last morning of our Savannah adventure, and we are heading toward Pooler to go to
8th Air Force.
It's a museum. What's the word? Not commemorating, but representing or
Honoring,
whatever. The 8th Air Force. So we're going to stop by there, and then we're going to head over to Statesboro to drop something off to Addie, and then we're heading home. Had to make a stop. Kurt got a large frozen caramel coffee. That's what he always gets.
Not always.
Almost always.
Those guys were really good on that tour. I would recommend doing that tour because, you learn so much stuff about Savannah.
I agree.
And you see so much. I would have never seen, all the architecture,
Not if you were driving, no.
Because I have to, when you're not familiar with an area, you have to focus on driving. And that's kind of a turd.
But, it's basically been a good trip. The first day was kind of a bust, but most of it was driving, but that's okay. So we're off on our last adventure of our trip.
Well, we got to see Addie. That'll be an adventure in itself.
Maybe.
Kids.
I'm assuming that it's that building. It's a very unique looking building. Yeah, because there's the sign.
Okay, we're here at the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum. And there's the building that houses all the cool stuff. But outside, they also have a couple of airplanes, it looks like, or replicas. Okay, here's the Mcdonald F4c Phantom. A masterpiece of engineering, the F4 was originally designed for use on board Navy aircraft carriers. So what is this? Worth W. Boyster Jr. and Thomas restored this aircraft in 2017 to honor their Air Force classmates on occasion of their 50th reunion. Wow. They were in the 23rd Cadet Squadron and later flew the F-4 in combat in Vietnam. Together they had over 450 combat missions.
That's what I was saying. I don't even have to duck.
Man, look at all the patches they made. Man, those canopies are small, small, small. That is cool. Okay, this is the big 17A. And this one, I'm trying to see when they restored it. But this thing is small. We were wondering what this was for. What is this for? Crazy, 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 crazy. And look at what you're looking out of. You got a camera, 2 gun ports, 3 gun ports. Okay, this is inside. And I believe that is a parachute. Right there. I like the flags. You got a lot of flags. I'm sure they all mean something. Telephone booth. Jimmy Stewart. Didn't know that. Yeah, there's Eli. Jimmy Stewart.
I saw that as I came in. I was going to read about it.
Crazy.
Okay, I just left the restroom, and in there, it's really neat because they have posters along the wall in the bathroom, like with women, you know, encouraging women to serve like as nurses
cool.
and doing their part for the war effort and really everything. So nobody was in there, but I'm still not going to report it.
This is named Lewis E. Lyle Rotunda. This is the first thing that you just walk into. And I mean, it's just, Lee and I were just talking about the generation that had to go through this war and what they had to go through, you know, for us to be, you know, able to do this that we're doing now. It is concerning. But yeah, this is just walking in.
In 1942, when we arrived in England, we had to build approximately 100 airfields. Now, if you look at the floors, the representation of the tarmac, you can see the different dark spots and so forth, representing oil spillage and etc. We took over a British airfield. We had to reinforce the runways, lengthen the runways, so that they would support our heavy bombers. Now this right here is a picture of a British airfield at Molesworth, England. Now Molesworth is still an active Air Force base today, and from what I understand, by several of the British people coming through, it is a very secure base. That aircraft was shot down on its 5th mission over France while trying to bomb a submarine base. The pilot of that aircraft worked for Kellogg's Cornflakes. When he was ferrying the aircraft to England, he got special permission to stop off at Battle Creek and have the artist of Kellogg's paint his logo on his aircraft. And if you look, you will see that there's a 1,000-pound bomb falling. And writing on that bomb is snap, crackle, and pop.
Oh my God, look at that.
This right here, civilians call a bullet. Now, the 20 years I was in the military, we did not have bullets. This was called a round. This is an M1 carbine round that our infantry used during World War II. This right here, our aircraft, we fired this round at the Germans. Our infantry fired this round at the Germans. And we still use this round today. This is a 50 caliber machine gun round. Now, you're going to hear the word Luftwaffe a lot. Luftwaffe means German Air Force. The Luftwaffe, their airplanes fired this round at us. Now they also have an aircraft, well I consider one of the best aircraft the Germans had until they developed the jet, was the Me-109. What you're sitting in, the Europeans call an Assange. The Americans called it a Quonset because it was manufactured and produced in Quonset Point, Rhode Island. Now this was like a Marriott. It had a concrete floor where you didn't have to sleep on the ground or in the mud, and it kept you out of the elements. Unlike what the Army was issued. The Army was issued a tent that they guaranteed would not leak unless it rained. Now, a Quonset hut this size would take about 2.5 hours to construct. It would hold approximately 12 men very comfortably. Now, if you look at this map and you see the black lines on it, one of our volunteers, those are the routes that he flew during World War II. He is 96 years old. And we also have a lady that was a Navy decoder, and she is 96 years old. The average age of a maintenance man was 18 to 19 years old. Now, it took 10 men to crew one airplane. You had 4 officers and 6 non-commissioned officers. The average age of an officer was 21 to 22 years old. The average age of a non-commissioned officer was approximately 19 and a half. Now, this is very, very important. In 1942, 43, and parts of 44, once a flight crew flew 25 missions, they got to come back to the United States, where your maintenance personnel, they had to stay until the duration of the war. When Pearl Harbor was bombed, we had the men joining our military forces by the thousands. And that left voids in the factories. And who filled those voids was Rosie the Riveter and Wanda the Welder. From around the end of spring before summer, the middle of 1944, to May the 8th of 1945, Ford Motor Company made 8,000 B-24 aircraft. The ladies and was helping to produce 1 aircraft every hour. I just can't fathom that. They had their stuff together. And in my opinion, with Rosie the Riveter, Wanda the Welder, and the Wasp, there's no way that we could have won the war without the ladies. Historians indicate that there were more people killed in World War II than all of recorded history. Somewhere between 50 and 60 million people killed during World War II. Other historians totally disagree. They say that the rate should be much higher, maybe up around 90 million, because the Russians did not keep account of their dead, or at least a very poor account of their dead.
I'm going to just do kind of an overview. We went back to the beginning after we listened. Wow. Yeah, he was talking about that. Everything in brown was occupied in 1942. Man, there are things everywhere, even way up top. British officer service dress jacket, is that what it says?
Yep, 1932 pattern life jacket. Look at these glasses.
Defeat means slavery, starvation, death. Why are they shaped like that, I wonder?
I don't know. I think it would mess with you.
Well, I guess you get used to it.
Crazy, look at this.
Yes. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. I mean, we think we have it bad wearing masks like we're having to do. Look at this. This is interesting. Corporal Arthur Parker cut this insignia from the tail section of, how do you pronounce that, Messerschmitt?
Yeah. ME
ME 109 on the morning of August 31st, 1940. The aircraft crashed in Elm Park Wood at 9:30 after being shot down.
Great.
See, we as Americans, I mean, we get it, but we don't get it. I mean, look at this picture. I mean, 9/11, of course, we saw devastation, but I mean, this was
Every night. Every night.
I mean, Britain saw this all the time.
I mean, this is a library.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm pretty amazed that they have so much memorabilia. You know, German memorabilia. Huh. I mean, this is what they were dealing with long before we ever got into it as Americans. Japanese flag, autographed by family members. Small Japanese flags of this type were popular with Japanese soldiers. Allies and Axis powers at the war's end. Now, I was listening to him talk about flak, and I'd heard it before, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So here's what it is. Okay, so that explains what flak is.
I really appreciate you watching part one of a two-part series. And